What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. This is going to be the full race recap of my 3:10 PR at the Mississauga Marathon. Let's go. Super stoked about it. Fresh off of it about a week ago as I record this video. So I've had a lot of time to think about the race, reflect on it, and write out a whole kind of race recap that I want to take you guys through. So this is definitely going to be a longer video. Might be maybe a little bit boring for some of you, but if you're into this kind of thing, you want to hear how the race went, how it broke down for me, I'm going to try and take you guys step by step through that process and what it looks like. Before I do that, though, make sure that you are subscribed to the video so that you don't miss out on any of the new videos that I have coming out. The support that I've had so far on the channel has been great. It's been fun to see. It's kind of made me motivated to keep sharing some of this stuff, as well as have the document of this whole journey for myself. But make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of that stuff. And make sure, if you aren't following me over on Strava, you follow me there. I'm trying to become a Strava star. But let's get into this race recap. Actually, before we do that, these medals, pretty fire. I want to maybe start doing like a medal ranking or rating so far this season. I would say this one probably comes in at like maybe a 7.8 on the scale. The Chile half marathon that I ran right now so far this year takes the cake on the medal. I'd say that's probably up in like the 8.4 range. It was super sick. I'll drop a little picture of what that looks like here so you can see it, but definitely going to be rating the medals as we go through it. But this race kicked off at 7:30 a.m., which is a bit of an early start. So for me, when we look at start time, I want to be getting food in at least 2 hours before. So I think I woke up around 4:30, had my first meal, which was like my pre-race meal, which is always a bagel with a little bit of peanut butter, honey, half a banana, roughly around 2 hours before. I'll also drink some Element with that and some creatine. And then leading into the start time, so usually from like, an hour to the race, I'll sip on around 50 grams of a carb drink. So that is really all the fueling that I take in most pre-race. So kick that off. Everything went smooth from that standpoint. Fueling was good. Pre-bathroom experience was good. So that was a nice start. Left for the race. Got there about an hour early. Like to try to get there a little bit early. This race being pretty close to where I live was great. Kendra drove me, dropped me off. Probably about like 5-minute walk from the start line, which was good. Had a little walk in. I would have to say that the race venue was awesome. The start of the race was at I think it's called Square One in Mississauga. Big open space, lots of room. It wasn't a massive race. There wasn't a ton of runners, but fairly sized. And the space that they had for the runners to hang out prior to the race was really big. There was a ton of toilet opportunities. So I went to the bathroom twice before the start of the race. Didn't really have to wait in any lines. Didn't feel overcrowded, in the area, which is good. Like some of the races that I ran, you feel so crammed. It can kind of be a little claustrophobic. So I never felt that at any point. Got a little warm up jog in before on the streets there, which were all kind of closed off. So a ton of opportunity to warm up. Got into the corral kind of early, probably like 20 minutes before the gun was to go off. I was in the red corral, which was like the very front of the race, which this was my first time ever being at the front, which was kind of cool, a fun experience. Definitely got to see and be around some of like the elites that were running in the race, and then obviously some of the people that we were going to be going out pretty fast. I think there was only like the fastest pacer at the race was a 3:10. So I don't think there was anything faster than that. So a lot of people out front, I could hear some chatter, obviously looking to go sub 3 or try to get like 250, 255, like kind of aiming for that Boston qualifying race. Obviously my goal was anywhere between 305 and 310. I will say when I was about to start off, in my mind, I felt really good about hitting a 305. That was more of the number that I did have in my head kicking it off. Countdown, gun goes off, boom, everyone fires out of the starting line. So I've learned with racing a couple races now that like I'm okay with coming out a little bit fast on my first kilometer, being excited, being in the surge of everyone running. You're gonna come out a little bit faster, and I'm totally cool with that. The key is making sure you settle back into your kind of race pace or wherever you want to start the race. But I came out, hit a 4:19 kilometer on the first one, which is honestly not like super crazy off of like the pace that I was aiming for. So that was good. But what I did not realize about this course, and anyone that is running Mississauga, for whatever reason, people were telling me that it's a pretty flat course. It's a fast course, which it is definitely like a net negative course, but there was way more rolling hills than I anticipated. So just because something's net negative does not mean that there's not going to be hills. There's just going to be more downhills than going up. So to start, I mean, you immediately like kind of around the 1K mark, you start having like a gradual incline up a little bit. In the first start of the race is also like navigating through the city a little bit. So there's a ton of turning, which is kind of annoying. So you're turning, you're trying to like make sure you stay on good angles so you're not wasting a bunch of time like rounding the corners. So I would say that was a little bit like challenging to start. And, I don't know if it was just like me being excited and fired up, but my heart rate was like definitely higher than I wanted to be at the time. Like I was, hanging in the 170s for a little bit, which I knew would like settle down. But I think like you get this anxiety that like you're gonna come out too hot, or at least for me anyway, they're gonna come out too hot, you're gonna blow up, your heart rate's gonna put you in a place you don't want to be, and then you're gonna struggle through the rest of the race. So that was something that I was like kind of struggling with a little bit at the start. And then we ran into like a headwind. So I think for the first probably 10K of the race, there was like a slight headwind that we were running into. It wasn't anything crazy. Like I've ran in crazier runs before, but it was just like there enough to be annoying. And I think for me, after like reflecting on the race, it is more mentally taxing than anything, because the whole time I'm trying to like mentally remind myself that this is okay. It's like, you're not going to have the headwind the whole time. You're still hitting your paces. Like you can manage this. Like you're constantly trying to keep your mental game in check, because if you lose the mental game, it's like it's game over. So I think that was the one common theme of this whole entire race, is that I never felt comfortable. I never felt settled in, and I constantly felt like I was battling something. So whether it be like the headwind, whether it be that it was a little humid and hot, and that it was hard to keep cool, that I needed to like continue to fuel myself, that there was hills on the backside of the course that I wasn't really anticipating, that I went into like a dark hole for about 10 kilometers. Like it was constantly a mental battle, which takes a lot out of you. Going into this race, you know that it's not going to be easy. Like you're running a marathon, it's never going to be easy. But the last race that I did run from a mental standpoint was a lot smoother, and did not take as much mental energy for me to run the race as I felt this race did. I have all my notes kind of jotted on my computer here, so I'm going to be kind of peeking over a little bit, but as we kind of got through that first 10K stretch, the cool part about this race, I don't know if this has ever been at any other races, let me know in the comments if you've seen this, but they had this like cheer board where like prior to the race, like people could submit like a picture and like a positive cheer for you. And so obviously Kendra, being the amazing girlfriend that she is, submitted a picture of Maisie, the wiener dog, and a little shout out to me, to Dig Deep, from herself, Maisie, and our cat Rogan. So that was super cool. And it was like a massive picture of Maisie the wiener dog up on the screen. So that was an awesome part about getting 10K in, which was nice because this is just after I took on all that headwind. So that was cool. And then I did end up connecting with a friend on the course. Shout out to my guy Tyler. Some of the clips that I have running is running alongside him. He gave me a little bit of insight into the course. He's someone who ran the course plenty of times, so he was telling me about the hills on the backside and when they were coming, and he was kind of pacing to have a similar goal to me, which was like cool. So one cool thing about like the run community is like most of the time people are pretty open to like helping and being as like community driven as you can. So that was super cool. And because it was a smaller race, there wasn't like a ton of people running a marathon, and because there wasn't like really any other pacers, like we were kind of out on an island. Like if you weren't running slower and if you weren't running like for a sub 3 goal, anywhere between like that 3:30 and like 3-hour marathon was kind of like a lonely stretch. So I did run a lot of the race by myself, but it was nice to kind of connect alongside someone for a majority of the race and get a little insight. But at this point in the race, I was feeling good overall with like my pacing. I was hitting anywhere between a 4:25 and a 4:30 per kilometer pace, which was kind of like what my goal was to come out and start around 4:30 for the first 10K, then ramp up to 4:25, and then from there kind of feel out where I was, and if I wanted to try a negative split down on the backside of the race if I could, or if I want to just hold on to that 4:25 pace. That was kind of what I was aiming for. So I felt really good about that, and I was holding on, felt strong. Fueling was going really well to kickstart the race. And then probably around the 18K mark, there was this stretch of road. It was probably about a kilometer long that was like a vortex of wind, and it was a tough stretch. And during that time, I just was kind of reminding myself, like, don't try to fight this wind, work with it. If it slows your pace down, it's all good. Don't let your heart rate get super jacked up. Like sometimes you want to like try and beat the wind and really push through it, and I just didn't feel like that was a good idea. So I was able to manage that and get on the backside of it, and actually felt good from 18K into
strong,
the half marathon time. So I came in, my half marathon split was a 1:33:27, which was a great split. That's putting me right on target to like hit that 3:06 3:05 marathon kind of goal that I had in my mind. So that was definitely a positive. Like I was nervous because I was starting to not feel great at that point in the race, and I think like a big part of that was the heat. The heat wasn't like crazy, but it was just enough to make everything feel that much harder. And I think as I've run more marathons, and by no means am I anywhere near having a great amount of experience. Like this is really my third road race that I've ran, and I've ran like 2 ultra marathons. So I don't have a ton of experience, but I've gotten to a point now with like having trained a lot and raced a few times to, just have awareness of like where I am, how I'm feeling, what efforts have felt like in the past. And I could feel at that point, like I kind of made this deal with myself that like, if I want to hold on and hang for my goal of 3:05 to 3:10, that this was going to be one of those races where I was really going to have to grind it out. I could just tell I was already feeling tired. I was already feeling, a little beat up. And so I kind of made that deal with myself. And I think it's a good thing to be aware and honest with yourself during these races, and I was trying to do that with myself, just being like, hey, you can still do this, but you're gonna have to really grind it out, and that's okay. Once you accept that and you dive in, I think it's better off. So that's kind of what happened to me at the 21K mark. I kind of had that conversation with myself, and from then to about the 27K mark, I was fairly in a good place. I was hitting paces. It wasn't like I was worried that I was falling off, but I wasn't really making any ground in terms of like improving my pace. But I was definitely getting hotter, and I was definitely trying to stay on top of fueling. And I've shared my fueling strategy a ton before, but usually my goal is to hit 100 grams of carbs an hour. So I take 3 gels in an hour, which is a gel every 20 minutes with 30 grams of carbs. So sorry, that's 90 grams. And because I knew that it was going to be hot, I taped 2 salt tabs to the back of every gel that I had. So that gave me about 500 to 600 milligrams of sodium every hour on top of like whatever Gatorade I could get into my mouth at the aid station. Having done some, like a test before, like 1,000 milligrams of sodium per hour is probably more of like what I would want to look at. But getting that 600 with the salt tabs and then the Gatorade probably kind of pushed me somewhat close to that. And I'm super, super glad that I did that. I think the fact that I was on point with my nutrition, on point with the sodium, trying to take in as much electrolytes as I could on course really helped to not have me cramp up or kind of hit the wall later in the race, which you could see that that was a big challenge for a lot of racers. You know, typically at like the 32 to 35K mark is when like the marathon really, really starts to get real. And you'll usually see a lot of people that maybe are underprepared from a training standpoint, are having a rough day, or just didn't fuel enough. Like that's where they start dropping off like flies. Like you'll see people just cramping or stopping or whatever. During this race, like I was seeing that starting to happen at like the 27K, 28K mark. And like, to be honest, I felt like that could be me at that point. I would say like at the 28K mark, 27K mark was when I started to go into a pretty dark place. I did see a friend of mine, Andy, at the 28K mark roughly, and that was like super refreshing. There's something about just seeing a friendly face that you know when you're out there suffering that just like kind of rejuvenates you a little bit. So it was super cool to see him, and it definitely gave me a little bit of a boost before I headed into what was a pretty dark stretch for me around the 29K mark. And this is where I probably learned the most and took the most away from the race. So the course was pretty cool and pretty well set up for spectators to kind of be there. So Kendra actually was on her bike, and she was able to, you know, kind of ride beside me and get some of the footage that, you know, I'm sharing with you guys, and kind of be there to give me some moral support, which is awesome. Like you definitely don't get that opportunity at every race. So I was very, very happy to have that. But around this point of the race, she asked me like how I was doing, and I remember just being like, I can't talk about it right now because I was definitely battling through, or just about to battle through, a pretty challenging stretch from around 28K to probably around 38, 39K. So it was a tough 10K stretch. And I want to kind of dive into a little bit more of like the mental side of what was going through my mind at that point, because I think this part of marathoning or doing anything that is challenging or that is hard or where you're pushing your limits, I think these moments that I'm about to share with you, where you're mentally having these conversations with yourself, are where you either, you know, are able to accomplish the things you want to accomplish, or you end up not having the day that you want. And so I started to really feel myself hurting. I was tired, I was hot, I was slowing on my pace, and I could tell that I was like starting to get to a point where I could hit a wall. I started having negative spirals in my head where it's like, I'm not going to be able to hold on to this pace. I'm not going to be able to hit my goal. I started out too fast. I didn't run. I didn't, you know, hit the splits that I wanted to leading in. You start having all these negative thoughts that can really end up ruining you. And for me in the past, when these moments have happened, I would go into a state of panic. And I think when you then go into a state of panic in your sympathetic nervous system, your flight versus the flight side of your nervous system starts to kick in, it can really derail a race. And I could feel that was starting to happen. My breathing was starting to get heavier. I was starting to panic. I was starting to think negative things in my head. And in the past, this would really cycle me down. But something that I've learned in a process that I've gone through is to like have these little check-ins with myself to try and like see, is this a realistic spiral, or am I just like really feeling bad and my mind is going to a bad place? And so usually what I'll try to do is like, first thing is just like tell myself to relax. I'll try to take a breath. I'll verbally say out loud like, relax, stay calm, take a breath, you're okay. Like I'll say these things out loud so that I can hear them for myself and kind of reassure myself that it's okay. I'll try to physically relax my shoulders. So a lot of times when you get really tense or you're starting to have a bad, moment, or you're spiraling, like you kind of, your shoulders come up, you get really stressed. So I was trying to just like relax my shoulders, breathe, tell myself to relax. Then the next thing is I check in with like my physical markers. So I'm looking at my pace and I'm looking at my heart rate. My heart rate wasn't in a really bad spot. It was like around 168, 166, which is like okay. If I look down at my watch and I'm in 180, then, it's probably a different story. But, I'm looking at my watch, it's 166. I'm looking at my pace, it's fallen off, but it's not like I've dropped like a minute and a half per kilometer pace. Like I'm still holding like a 435, 437 pace at this time. So like in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm still holding these paces decently. I know I am hurting, but it's not drastically showing up in the objective measures. And I'm trying to get myself to calm down. And then I go through like my fueling checklist. When's the last time that I fueled? Did I hit my last gel? Which at that point, yes, I did. Is it time for me to fuel again? Which at that point where I was starting to spiral, it was right around the 20-minute mark. It was slightly earlier, but in the past when I've had these like bad feelings and like I'm getting really tired and I might be hitting a wall, I really think a lot of it is like your body's just asking for fuel. So I took a caffeine gel with an electrolyte tab, and that saved me. It definitely impacted into turning my situation around. But I think after I took that gel, I then just focused on, okay, let's try to get back in a rhythm. Let's try to breathe. Let's try to get back on pace. Try to stay relaxed. And keep positively reinforcing myself like, okay, you can do this, you're strong, you've trained for this. And you really, at that moment, I had the choice that I think everyone ends up getting faced with at some point in a marathon or in any effort where you're challenging yourself. And this is not going to change for me as I try to go faster and faster and I get more fit. It's always going to be the decision that I'm going to have to make is like, do you want to lean into this level of discomfort that you're feeling, or do you not want to? And I think, in the past, I have chosen not to lean into it and have probably not accomplished the things that I wanted to accomplish. And one of the things that I'm really trying to challenge myself with as I go for this goal of qualifying for Boston is like, you have to lean into that uncomfortable feeling even more. And I know it's cliche and everyone says, do the hard thing or lean into discomfort. But I really truly think when it comes to something like a marathon, you're going to be faced with discomfort, and on the other side of that discomfort is the potential for you to hit your goals, and you have to learn how to manage those situations and figure out how you can convince yourself to lean into what's already feeling very, very shitty. And so I was able to manage that situation, kind of pull myself out of it mentally. I think the gel helped give me some fuel and give me some energy. And funny enough, after I kind of got out of this, I ended up hitting the hills that I wasn't really aware of. And that was challenging, but because I was able to pull myself out of it before that moment, I was able to get through it. And I think that was, super critical. So I just want to share that with you guys because I really truly think like those moments are defining moments, and for me was a big learning lesson from this race is that like, I hit a PR, which is great. Did I hit it as fast as I wanted to? No. Did I hit it as fast as I think I was capable of from a fitness standpoint? No. I do think like my fitness was faster than that, but that is the thing, is the marathon is a race, and on race day anything can happen, and learning how to manage those mentally challenging situations when things maybe aren't going perfect and when you're doubting yourself, and then having to choose to lean into that, is a massive part of racing and accomplishing your goals. Yeah, so on the other side of that 38K, I did like start to drop off like what I was hoping for like a 305 pace. I was still averaging, 430 kilometers, 425, some 430, some a little over 430. So I was still in the range of, hitting a PR in my 310, but I kind of had this feeling that 305 would be a little bit tougher. And that was like really open to me when I think it was probably around 39K, where I clocked like a 450 kilometer, which is way slower than I was hoping to hit. But at that point, the 310 pacer caught me, and he pulled up beside me, and that lit a fire under me, because I'm like, yo, listen, there's no way this guy is beating me. I've worked very hard to get to this point of the race. I've battled through a lot of mental challenges through this race. There's no way I'm not hitting a 310 at this point. And so that was actually probably a good thing. And it just goes to show you like how much of this is like a mental game, and, training your mind to manage these situations, because the second that I saw that, I was able to, catch another, like another wind, and really, really be able to push to the finish line. I think like my last 3 kilometers, I did like a 425, then a 429, and then a 415 to finish off, which super happy that I was able to like kick at the end and get a faster kilometer. Something that I've been really trying to train is being able to kick and push with some power under a lot of fatigue to simulate the end of a marathon like this. So the fact that I was, still able to do that was super, super positive for me. And yeah, I was able to like, push it into the finish line, which like with another like 2 kilometers to go, like there was a lot of people that were cramping and walking, like a ton. And I was very, very nervous about that. So I was still taking gels like 5K out, just like even whether or not they were actually like making a difference from a feeling standpoint. I just think mentally I was like, I'm going to take this gel because I don't want to cramp. And as I was coming to the finish line, it was a really exciting finish. There was a ton of people cheering. I will say you had to make this like 90-degree right turn to like finish off, like you're coming straight and then you had to turn right to like get the last stretch of the finish line. That was evil, because like literally anything could happen at that point with my legs, but I was able to manage that corner and push to the end, and I finished at a 3:10:22, which is a 6-minute PR for me, which is huge. Like taking 6 minutes off of your marathon time is not easy. To do that in September was when I ran a 3:16 to now. Very, very happy with that. Cannot be mad about doing that. I hit the goal that I'd set, which is going anywhere between 3:05 to 3:10. And yeah, the finish line was carnage. There was people dying everywhere, honestly. It was a very warm day, and I think like it really, really pushed people to the brink, which is just how it goes, man. Just part of the battle. So the fact that I was able to make it through that, push through that, was also like a big win for me. Like anything, I always like to reflect on like some of the things that I did well, some of the things that I can improve on. But I think what I wanted to, do for myself, and something I've been trying to manage better, is like enjoying the fact that I did accomplish something that I tried really hard to accomplish. And so trying to just take in the fact that, hey, you just PR'd, and like, you ran really hard and you were able to accomplish something that you set out is huge, and try to soak that in. And you have your girlfriend there who's been supporting you through this whole thing. She's been there at the finish line. She made sure you got to the race. Like, she's been nothing but supportive for you. Like, try and enjoy this moment as much as you can, even though you are in extreme amount of pain. And I've also just learned to try to mentally manage the ups of preparing for a race, and then the downs that come after it, to try to like mentally stay in a good place. So I didn't want to rush by the fact that I did accomplish a PR, but I'm not gonna lie, like my mind immediately went to like, all right, how do I start to improve so that I can get to my goal of qualifying for Boston? And I don't think that this is a bad thing. I think this is just like what I want to do. I'm motivated to do it. It brings me joy to pursue this performance goal. Running itself brings me joy. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, and I'm excited to improve and learn more. So what I think went really well with this race is fueling. Something that I really try to leverage is fueling, because I know as a non-elite runner, someone who's new to running, who doesn't have any background in it, I need to take advantage of every little thing I can. And I think fueling is one of those low-hanging fruits, to where like if you can nail fueling the best that you can leading into the race, during the race, and after the race, like you're going to set yourself up for better success. So I was super, super pumped that I was able to do that. I think one fueling strategy I may change for my next block, as well as my next big race, is I think I might start carrying like a hand flask on course with some electrolytes and carb drink, because one, to have water when I want to rinse my mouth, or some liquid when I want to rinse my mouth, I think is something that I want. And two, to be able to replace, electrolytes or sweat loss, as well as get some carbs through a liquid, is something that I want to try to do. So I think that's one fueling change I'm going to make heading into the next block. And then the other thing I'm super pumped about was mentally being able to stay in it, fight through the negative times. I was never comfortable. I was never in a zone. I was never in a groove in that race. It was always mentally taxing, and I think that was the biggest challenge of this race. My last marathon, it was hard. I was pushing myself. It was somewhat mentally challenging, but comparing it to this race, it was way smoother from that standpoint. So very, very happy with how I was able to manage that. And then the things that I would improve on, having a better awareness of the course going in. I know this seems like a thing that you should just do, but like sometimes I don't get too obsessed with the course itself. I know some people like love knowing the exact course and breakdown, and I think for me, I like the excitement of racing something new and not knowing. But I do think having a little bit of insight into like, hey, there's going to be some hills on the back end, or hey, this course is actually hillier than you think, will probably help me, because I can then try and train and maybe prepare for doing some longer workouts with hills built into them, to more manage like how does it feel when I have to run up a hill when I'm really tired and I'm trying to maintain a fast pace. So that's definitely something that I think I would do. The other thing that I took away from this is, and I think this will come with experience, but learning how to be a better racer versus just running. I think it's a massive difference. And I've always like, I've come to realize that like a lot of the elite racers, or people that are doing really well in these types of events, they tend to race a lot off of feel. So I think you have to earn or gain the right to run more off feel, because you need to have some gauge for like, what is a 4:30 pace? What is a 4 minute per kilometer pace? Like, what does this feel like? How fast am I going? What are my actual legitimate fitness numbers and levels? And I think you can get a lot of that in training, but I think there is something to learning how to run off feel and run with the course and run with the elements. And I want to just get better at doing that. So it's definitely something that I could work into training, where, maybe I'm running less based off my watch and my pace and more based off my feel in some of these longer workouts, and just being okay with the fact that like there doesn't have to be these perfect splits. I think you have this, at least for me, I have this idea in my head that I need to be constantly clipping off these paces, and that I constantly need to have this negative split, this perfect race plan that's in my head. And when that doesn't happen, and you're not seeing that on your watch, you start to panic or you start to think that you're falling off, and that just adds mental energy and it takes mental energy away from you being able to focus on the performance itself. So I think I want to try and train that a little bit more. I know it's going to come with just experience of racing. I've already seen this improve in myself over the 3 races that I have done, but that is something that I want to improve on, and that was a big takeaway for me. To wrap up, I want to do a little bit of some shout outs, as well as just what is coming down the pipe for me. So shout out first and foremost goes to Kendra, my amazing girlfriend. She's supported me throughout this whole block of training. Committing to something like a marathon is very, very time consuming, especially the way that I went about it this time around. Like, I really took it serious. I had the longest, block of training. I had the most volume. I had the hardest workouts. And to, go through that, the time it takes, the mental energy it takes, the sacrifice it takes, and then like the stress and anxiety and maybe challenge it causes for me, for your loved one, your partner, to like support you through that. I know it's not easy. I think I'm not that bad, but I'm so appreciative of Kendra supporting me. It really does mean a lot to me, and it does allow for me to have the success that I have. So I'm excited to flip the script and be supporting her as she pursues her first Ironman 70.3 in Sandusky in July. So I think that's also something I really love about our relationship, is that we're able to both be pursuing something and support each other and flipping roles. And I really enjoy being the supporter, as much as I like to be supported. So shout out to Kendra. I love you very much, and thank you. Got to give a shout out to my friend group. The support from like my best friend Matt, his wife Alicia, Benny, the boy Benny, my brother Connor, the boys back home that ran with me around the bay. Andre, Joe, you guys really do support me a ton, and I appreciate it a lot. And I don't think that like people realize how much that support goes a long way, especially when you're trying to pursue something and challenge yourself the way that I am. So I'm very, very, very grateful for that. And the movement team, got to give a shout out to them. I work with the best people. They are always supportive of the goals. They're always asking me how I'm doing. They deal with my tiredness and my craziness around running. So a massive shout out to the movement team as well. And then, lastly, I have to give a shout out to my coaches, Isaac and Luke, who have been helping me for God knows how long now, years and years, but like more formally this year, Isaac coming in and helping a little bit more with my run training, which has definitely elevated my performance. The program that he's putting together, the workouts he's putting together, has definitely elevated me, and I'm super, super stoked to dive into pushing that even more. And then Luke, who's been like my coach over the last, 3 years probably. He programs my strength workouts. He programs my nutrition. We talk about lifestyle and habits and things that I can do to improve my recovery. His support and guidance and friendship and mentorship has meant so much to me. So again, like as much as this is an individual effort, the help and the support and the guidance that I've got from the people around me is unmatched, and I'm so grateful for that. And then to you guys, to everyone who's watching this video, who made it this far, if you did, I appreciate it. Even if you didn't, the people that have liked my Instagram posts, who have commented on Strava, who have shared thoughts with me, who have commented on these videos, like it actually really has been super cool for me. And my goal with doing all this is to document my journey, first and foremost, so I can go back and look at it and see the progress and see the things that I was capable of doing. But second, I truly believe like most people are capable of way more than they think, and I prove that to myself through some of the things that I've done, specifically through running. And so if I can share that process and share what I'm learning and what I'm doing and show people that, yo, I'm no one special, I am just a dude that's willing to work really hard, put his mind towards a goal, do everything he can to get there. I want to show people that like you can do that too, and it doesn't have to be at the same scale as me or anyone else, but maybe it's your first 5K, maybe it's your first CrossFit competition, maybe it's your first Ironman, whatever it is. You're capable of way more than you think, and to be able to show that through some of this content is really cool for me, and I hope that it does have that impact on anyone who chooses to click on my videos or like my posts or see my Strava stuff. So it has been super helpful to keep me motivated, keep me accountable when I don't want to go do my workouts. I think about, well, if I was watching someone who didn't want to go do their workouts, like, why would I watch them? So there is some accountability and support there, and I think that I need all the angles I can get to help me reach my goal. So thank you. What's next? So at the end of May, the 25th, our team at the Movement is doing the Sulphur Springs Relay Race, which is a 100-mile relay race. We have 8 people on the team, which means each of us are going to do a 20K loop. I'm super excited for that. Kendra's racing her first 70.3 in July, so I am going to be supporting her with her training, pushing her, cheering her on, all that good stuff. I think I am going to do a sprint triathlon in June. I've dabbled in the triathlon game. It's something that I do want to eventually transition into after maybe focusing so much on these run goals. So I am going to do a sprint triathlon, see if I can beat my time from 2021. Maybe some 5 or 10K races here or there. I brought this up with my coach Isaac. He kind of shut it down, but we'll see. I might try to dive into that. I would be curious to see what I could hit for a 5 or a 10K. Really trying to race something like that, because I've never done that before. And then the biggest focus heading into the fall and most of my summer training is going to be focused on the Toronto Marathon, where I'm going to try and go for sub 3. So I'm super stoked about that. I'm pumped to get into that training block. As of the recording of this video, I will be starting next week back to running 6 days a week. Isaac let me in on a little bit of what the program is going to look like. It's going to be a lot. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. So that is going to be the main goal heading into the fall. That's it. That's all I got for you guys. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. You probably are subscribed if you made it this far, but if you aren't, make sure you subscribe. If you want to follow me on Strava, head over there, follow me, give me some kudos. I'll give you some kudos back. I love Strava now. I'm addicted. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me there, dlano.93. I hope you guys are out there getting after it. I hope you're pushing yourself. I hope you're proving that you can do more than you ever thought possible. And as always, make sure you're digging deep. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.